and Will, something we talked about, but we've got calls about as well, is these states that on the left, these blue states, which are putting together slush funds, legal slush funds to take on the Trump administration. And so think about what they will be doing is giving out millions of taxpayer dollars to liberal organizations to then file lawsuits against the Trump administration.
You've been warning about this since November 6th, since the day we came on air and said President Trump was declared the winner, but just be on the lookout for this dangerous period and how the left will fight back and why groups like the ACLJ are so important. Gavin Newsom and California Democrats reached a $50 million deal the week before inauguration. So they'd been trying to put this deal together since the election, but at a time when they're having one of the worst wildfires in the state's history, which is wiping out large swaths of LA, they're still working on a $50 million deal to what they call Trump-proof the state. And what this entails is $25 million going to the California Department of Justice to fight the federal government in court. So essentially, fight every federal thing that they can that President Trump is going to put forward. And the other $25 million of this 50 is going to go to NGOs and nonprofits.
Not us.
That are specifically legal nonprofits. So the left's version of an ACLJ, the state is going to be giving up to $25 million to defend immigrants against deportation, detention, and wage theft.
And this is when you start thinking about these left-leaning states with your taxpayer dollars and going, do you really want to be funding this? I mean, I get, like, if your career has to be there, if this is where you must live, or, moving is not easy, depending on what stage of life you're at either, where your business is, your family is. We all understand that. But you realize they are weaponizing their own version of ACLJs, not by people who are giving voluntarily, but by you, the taxpayer. And then they're going to then fund the left's version to go into court to fight the Trump administration as much as possible. I've said this, and I just to get it through to people, how important this statistic is. And I have no doubt this 4 years will be the same when we look back on it, because we're already seeing so much legal action from our team right now. I mean, we were in a meeting the day after, the swearing in, when really but because the executive orders were signed, and it wasn't like a usual president who does like a few, did 200. Well, guess what? We had to go to work, and we had to get our team to start prioritizing those executive orders. But you know what we're not going to do? We're not going to get $2 million or $3 million checks from California, New Jersey, or New York to help fight this in court. We have to, and we will end up spending more money and filing more cases under the Trump administration than the Biden administration. And in one sense, it's a good thing, because that means we are in court fighting on issues not to stop something we believe is bad, but to help something go into force and to work that we believe will greatly assist our country. So when you're looking at it as an attorney, it's a more proactive way of saying, you know what, we believe this is constitutional. We believe this is worth fighting for, not because this is going to damage America, but because this is going to put America in a better standing than it is right now in the world. And that's what you're always trying to do when you're looking at those kind of policy and legal situations. Basically, you can go through the list of the issues that Trump and people who voted for President Trump really care about, and it's most of those top issues that California and New York are going to take issue with, about, again, kind of opening up our economy again with using the resources we have in our country. So whether it's oil and gas, and making sure that we are net exporter instead of importer of those, and also at the same time, the tougher immigration standards, not just what's happening at a border, but also what's happening inside communities that have been overrun by illegal criminal gangs and cartels that are running cities. So, but we know that this isn't just going to be put the policy into force and it's going to happen. We know that there will be serious opposition, millions of dollars worth of legal fighting to do to make sure that those policies actually get to go into force. Some of those legal battles will be quick. Others will take a couple of years. And think about a couple of years in a presidency that is only going to be 4 years long. Okay, so a couple of years, it gets you to another midterm election. We know what the left strategy is. If you can tie up a policy, especially for a couple of years, and then maybe have some shift in the House and the Senate, or both of them, especially when they're this close. And historically, you look back and midterms are tougher for the incumbent president. Not always, but sometimes, but most of the time. That if you can tie it up in court for a couple of years, guess what you've done? You've actually stopped the policies the American people have voted for actually having a chance to go into force.
That's right. And if you
then they'll come in with legislation to try and block it.
You think about, obviously, the United States government has the Department of Justice, the Solicitor General. They have resources because they will have to fight this as well when they're sued. However, there's also a big job being undertaken right now to try and reform the Department of Justice. Many of the people that work for the Department of Justice may agree with some of these left-leaning states. And so that's also why organizations like the ACLJ, especially when there is leftist counterparts that are making these lawsuits as well, it is so important to have the voice of the ACLJ members heard. With the great work and extreme intelligence, brilliance of our legal team to fight back as well. Because our legal team at the ACLJ has defended presidents of the United States, has defended state governments, has defended even sidewalk pro-life counselors. We are experts at the very things that these states are going to be fighting against. So that's another reason why it's so important to support our work in this time, because you have to have all hands on deck when the left is going to designate taxpayer money to the tune of $50 million. We heard about all the tax cuts that Mayor Bass of LA did to their fire departments and things of that nature. But yet at the same time, the state government is increasing the budget to just do one thing: fight Trump, fight a conservative agenda in the court system. So the ACLJ is ready to fight. I know that you were there having those meetings yesterday.
Yeah.
Right after the inauguration, what was Jordan doing? He was in D.C. meeting with the attorneys of the ACLJ, crafting a strategy of how we fight back. And as you're having those meetings, we're getting news alerts: lawsuit filed, lawsuit filed, lawsuit filed. And so we are ready. You have the strategy, and we are going to continue, but we also need the support of our members.
Yeah, we do. I mean, the key is, and it's just like I said, we will be in more active litigation than we probably were in under the Biden administration. That was a lot of litigation. We'll have to go back and count it all up because some of it is still ongoing, and it will be closed more quickly now when you get people into these offices. We have really kind of two focuses at the ACLJ right now when you're at the early part of an administration that you've worked closely with. Number one is making sure that there are early policies when they don't have the department's heads in yet, they don't have the deputies in yet, to make sure that those early policies don't just get beat up in a district court or a court of appeals and not get fully flushed out in court and fight back. So you want to make sure that that doesn't occur. And the second part of that, and I think it's just important then, is getting the people confirmed. You've got to get people into these offices to start running the offices, or it makes it more difficult to, because the Department of Justice would be the main defense mechanism of these lawsuits like New Jersey's talking about, or California's talking about, or New York is talking about. But our AG is not in, and the deputies are not in yet. And until they are in, we still have to be ready to fight back, and President Trump is going to continue to move on his agenda. So what do? You can rely on groups like the ACLJ and others to make sure that while you're in this process of transition, which is still going on and likely will go on, I mean, it takes a couple of months. I mean, just to be honest with people.
It's thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about nearly 10,000 positions that you can fill. And I'd say with every major department, you need to fill at least 50 before you're up and running, maybe at 100% of being able to implement the policies or the legal approach that you're going to take and prioritizations. I mean, that's one thing that we have in government is prosecutorial discretion. So Pam Bondi, working alongside President Trump and his team, will decide what are our priorities as the Department of Justice. And it's not going to be, I have a feeling, going after Catholics or the pro-life community. It's going to be going after the violent criminals and people who are causing Americans to die. I think a lot of it ties into the border, and it ties into what happens when the drugs are already here. And so you will focus differently on what issues you prioritize. And by doing that, you're allowing those resources to be utilized for what you care about the most. And it's a great tool that they will have when they are in place. But I say that it's when they are in place. And the left knows the longer they can try and drag their feet on some of these nominees, and they'll try to do as long as possible, because that means that much less time for those nominees to actually get in there and start changing things and start implementing the policies.
Yeah, but we knew all this was coming. That's why the ACLJ has been fighting back. And, it's only been 48, 72 hours or so now that President Trump has been in office. We could use your support, though. Go to aclj.org. Become an ACLJ champion if you can. That's someone that gives on a monthly recurring basis. Obviously, it's tax deductible, and you could do that, and it's automatic. Just go ahead and opt in. You can do that at any level. Leave $5 as the minimum, or give a one-time gift at aclj.org.